Audi is not a brand we associate with weakness. But with its performance models, rare cracks have been known to appear. The R8 remains the closest anyone has come to beating the Porsche 911 at its own game in the last 50 years. That it came from a brand associated with upscale sedans and SUVs is all the more impressive. And yet when it comes to creating convincing rivals for BMW M and Mercedes-AMG out of its core range, Audi still seems to struggle. Back in Europe, its A4 and A6-based RS Avant wagons have a strong following and a consistent run of form back to the original, Porsche-engineered RS2 of the mid-90s. Experience of pioneering, and successfully marketing, technology like four-wheel drive and heavily turbocharged small-capacity engines decades before they became industry standard should also give Audi a great foundation. And yet the original RS5 is a typical example. It looked great, its box-arched butchness setting it apart from regular A5 coupes and offering a visual link to the iconic Ur-Quattro of 80s rallying fame. And its V8 engine was standout exceptional, revving to over 8,000 revolutions per minute and driving through a sophisticated powertrain of adjustable torque split four-wheel drive and a fully active rear sport differential. It was all there on paper. But somehow the driving experience didn't quite add up, the gloopy variable ratio dynamic steering failing in its best of both worlds promise. Meanwhile, the engine sounded great and had charisma galore, but the impressive sounding 450 horsepower V8 couldn't quite deliver the punch to live up to the promise, given the near 4,000 pounds curb weight and meager 317 pounds-to-foot of torque. So, the task list for the new RS5 seems obvious. Keep the looks, sharpen the driving experience and fit it with an engine with torque to spare. First impressions are that's exactly what the new RS5 does. A few character lines and a bit of side trim modernize the design, but it's fundamentally true to the previous car's style. There's 132 pounds less weight and promise of sharper dynamics. And the V8 has gone, replaced by a 444 horsepower, 2.9-liter, RS-specific version of the S5's inside-out V6 turbocharged engine with slightly less capacity, 2 turbos rather than 1, and a thumping 443 pounds-to-foot of torque from just 1,900 revolutions per minute. The 0 to 60 miles per hour sprint is half a second faster than the old RS5. At a blistering 3.7 seconds, the mid-range should be transformed, and you'd hope Autosport, as the Quattro division is now known, has been listening to criticisms and benchmarking the BMW M4 and Mercedes-AMG C63 to understand why enthusiasts love them so much. So hopes are high when you get in. Chances are your mood is already sunny because people love the way it looks and you're never far from admiring looks in nice car. Compliments. Sculpted sport seats and quilted Napa leather, a $1,500 option, and a full suite of gizmos topped off with Audi's virtual cockpit binnacle, included in the $2,600 navigation package, help maintain the positive vibes. The RS5 and Quattro branding around the cabin also do well to remind you you're in something a cut above an S5. This car's black-tipped RS Sport exhaust starts with a bassy bark too, this quickly settling back to a quieter takeover as the flaps and the tips shut to the default mode. Included as part of the $3,350 dynamic package with adaptive RS suspension and red calipers, it adds a dose more attitude to the RS5's curb presence. And don't worry, the car remembers your mode, and if you've left it in dynamic or configured individual accordingly, it'll fire up with the exhausts open and keep them that way. Previous experience of other S and RS models with the Sport differential demonstrates that in these conditions it can unleash a more exciting side in Audi's otherwise conservative dynamics, the combination of variable front-to-rear and rear axle torque split table at least unleashing a little rear bias. It's no Nissan GT-R, the numb front end discourages you from leaning too hard on the chassis for starters, but in extremis there is a more exciting car lurking within the RS5's otherwise sober demeanor. It's just frustratingly hard to uncover. And that's the biggest problem with this car. Drive an M4 or a C63 and from the moment you hit the start button you'll know exactly why you've paid the premium over the standard cars in the range. Both have character and attitude you can enjoy with every mile you cover, be it on the commute or a canyon blast. Aesthetics aside, there's not enough separation between this RS5, an $85,000 car as tested, and an S5 that costs $30,000 less. True, the RS is faster, more prestigious and stands out as something a cut above the norm when seen against regular Audis. But as a driving machine it's almost too conservative and lacks that decisive wow factor at the wheel that would make the premium worth paying. Thanks for watching and don't forget to subscribe.